No, there wasn't the sound of an evil spirit haunting you or anything. That's what life sounds like for a person with a hearing disability. Every day we listen to music, the birds chirping, our mums yelling at us to come clean the dishes. However, we don't really consider what it would be like if we couldn't hear anything. Hearing loss is actually more common than you think, with 1 in 6 Australians suffering from some sort of form of it, and 5% of the total global population. That's a lot of people. So to kind of get your mind around this, I probably should explain how hearing works. So when sound waves enter the ear, they vibrate something called the stereocilia. Now stereocilia release chemicals which are then translated by the cochlea within your inner ear. The cochlea translates this into something that can be understood by the brain and transmits it as an electrical signal so it can be understood. A defect occurring somewhere along this line, this whole processing line, is what causes the hearing loss. Now there are two types of hearing loss. It's congenital and acquired. Firstly, congenital is from when you were born, so it's a genetic reason and you can't really help that. But acquired is something that happens during your life, so it can be an infection, it can be through dangerous work practices, or damage to the ear or brain. Now having this disability can affect a person's life more than you would think. It's more than just the, I can't hear anything anymore. People start to begin to feel excluded from society from a fear of missing out. Opportunities for employment are also restricted, as well as common social things that we do. People just with hearing loss can't participate. From this, depression and anxiety disorders can develop, and that's a serious thing. However, not all is lost. Through the cumulative efforts of several scientists and the just innate human desire to progress, we have come up with a solution for some of these people. Cochlear implants. I'll get into more detail on this later. However, just to put it simply, cochlear implants work by kind of bypassing and replacing some of the damaged parts of the hearing system. And what they do is directly stimulate the auditory nerve. To fully understand how the modern day cochlear implant came to be, we have to start from a very humble beginning, starting with Alessandro Volta. Now, Alessandro Volta was a really quirky person, a really weird guy. He's most credited for discovering the battery as well as discovering methane. You've probably also heard of the Volt. Volta, Volt. Pretty clever, right? Yeah, a little known fact is that he liked to stick things into his ears, especially wires. By sticking the two wires from the ends of a battery pack into his ears, he experienced a large boom sound. And then putting two and two together, we understood that, okay, the ears work electrically. Next up, we have Dr. William F. House, who worked alongside an engineer. And what they discovered was when they stuck a gold wire inside the cochlea, the person could hear environmental sound. For the longest time, they were struggling how to make it work.
I can't get this to work.
I might have an idea.
Oh, really?
No. Doctor, this is it! This could solve your problem!
Excellent.
Not speech yet, but it's definitely a large improvement from what happened 10 years earlier. But the combination of engineering and neuroscience,
Excellent.
it's a perfect marriage. Next we have Graham Clark and his Melbourne team. What they did was, using the limitations of the rate of electrical stimulation as a means of coding speech. From there he developed what is known as the bionic ear.
Hey, Dada!
What do you want, Graham?
I've been watching cricket for the last 3 hours. Change channel.
We only got one channel on the TV.
What do you mean? Mate, if it was up to me, we'd have more than one channel. We'd have several channels. I call it multi-channel.
The prototype was multi-channel, having up to 20 channels. And this was a great development. In 1984, there was an attempt to get these implants, these multi-channel implants, onto market. But it's proved to be very, very difficult to get FDA approval.
No.
There was failure
No.
after failure.
Yeah, no.
But eventually, after further research and trials and redevelopment of the implant, it was brought towards the FDA and they approved it.
Okay.
Now the modern day cochlear implant works through a sound processor which exists on the outside of your ear. This picks up the sound and converts it into a digital code. The code is then transferred down through coils from the outside into the implant within your ear. At the implant, the digital code is converted into electrical signal which transfers down through electrodes into the cochlea. At the cochlea, this signal is transferred to the spinal cord which then relays it to the different parts of the brain for processing, such as the auditory cortex in the temporal lobe and the prefrontal cortex, which helps understand all the information and convert it into something that you can recognize. The technology is constantly evolving. Current cochlear implants use microphones on the outside of the ear, but current research is trying to use the almost always intact microphone inside the inner ear and utilize that. This would save a lot of energy because there is less hardware on the outside, it's more discreet, and it utilizes what already works in your body, so there's less to charge. The device isn't exactly perfect, there are risks as with everything. During the surgery to implant the device, you are working near the facial nerve, and if you strike or damage the facial nerve, you will receive paralysis on the side of the face where the cochlear implant is put in. Despite all the risks, all in all, the cochlear implant is really, truly an amazing thing. The outlook for the future is looking pretty good. There's tons of research and development, and it can only go up from here.